congratulations on The Price We Pay. It's a fantastic movie. I was watching it again last night. I loved it to bits. It's exactly the kind of film that I wanted to watch. I'm quite interested in the reason that you chose this one, because I know that you're quite specific about the films that you choose, because you don't like to choose films that are particularly kind of gratuitous for gratuitous reasons. No, you like to kind of focus on films that are violent, but for specific reasons, specifically kind of heavy character-based pieces and things like that. This film felt almost like a quasi sequel, or it could have been set in the same world as No One Lives. Was that something that was in your mind when you chose this film? There was kind of similar themes in there.
Maybe because all started in the middle of the pandemic when the world was locked down. I met this super talented writer, Jolley, who lives in the UK.
Yeah.
And I guess this is the modern day of, movie making. I never actually met him, but we met through, email, and we met through Zoom and started, just talking about, because nothing was really happening in the whole world. So, why don't we just come up with our own idea, better than, doing nothing, right? And depressing. So we started, talking about what we like, and, he's, sent me ideas, and I sent him ideas, and we started talking, and one day he came up with this concept of The Price We Pay. We didn't even have the title that day, those days, but and because the movie I was supposed to do after The Price We Pay, and the movie I did before The Price We Pay was this movie called The Doorman, which was a straight action movie, right? I just felt like, I want to just go back to my roots and do something crazy and fun,
yeah,
kind of like 90s, vibe to it. So,
very much so, yeah.
Let's just have fun and do crazy things. And originally, we were even thinking about doing this as more like like very, very small budget indie movie, because the film industry obviously wasn't really opening up. So I was feeling like, just me and my friends, and we just do this small indie movie, because that's where I came from. 20 years ago, I made this movie called Versus, and that was like me and a bunch of amateurs, and we made a movie. So I felt like, I just want to do something other than, locked up myself in the room. So we came up with a script, and then more and more we developed the script. I fell in love with this project because, like you said, yes, it is very 90s vibe, gore, splatter, violence, action. But I really like what Jolley came up with, this character, especially the character of this grandfather, who is, yes, he's evil, he's crazy, but he has his own reason to do it, right? And I just really like this, evil versus evil kind of story, and this one innocent person who's stuck in the middle, and is she going to survive or not? I really like that kind of all the character and the storyline that Jolley came up with. So I got more serious as we developed the script. Then we got lucky that one of our producers sent a script to Emil Hirsch, and I was really surprised, but he said he's a huge fan of me. He loves horror movie. He loves the script. He wants to do it. So suddenly, originally I was thinking about doing this like Friends small indie movie. Now we got Emil Hirsch, and he made another phone call to his friend Stephen Doof, and he called me and said, hey, Emil says great thing about you, and I read the script. I like it. What are you thinking? So me and Stephen, spoke over the phone, 15 minutes. Then he said, I love everything. I'm in. So like, okay, suddenly we had Emil Hirsch and Stephen Doof. So, that's when really this project gets, super exciting.
I mean, you said that it felt very, it does feel very 90s, very kind of grindhouse movie. There's a very kind of 90s grindhouse movie feel to it. It also feels very American, or maybe very Australian as well at the same time. Coming from you and a British guy like myself, was it easy to kind of, is that something that you just because of all the films that you've watched over your lifetime, was it very easy to create a very American, or I felt also very Australian movie at the same time? Was that quite easy to get onto the screen?
Yeah, it's not about easy or difficult. That's me. I'm the Japanese crazy director who studied filmmaking in Australia, then moved to Hollywood 15 years ago. So yes, part of me is Japanese, and part of me is Australian, and part of me is American by now. So yes, naturally, when I do something, when I touch something, it has that kind of vibe to it. I think
I mean, you
it's
mentioned that.
incredibly natural.
But I mean, you mentioned that you got to two great actors, but I mean, obviously you got something that must have been fantastic for you. I mean, I know that you're a huge, growing up, you were a huge Mad Max fan, and that's
Yes.
something that kind of sparked the seed in you to want to become a filmmaker. And also to be able to get Vernal Wells in your film must have been a dream come true. And I can't even imagine how many stories you got to listen to him tell you about working on the Mad Max film, no?
Of course, of course. And so, yeah, he was telling me all this, the fantastic story about how he got the job to hire for Mad Max 2, and all this, the wait time for this lighting and everything. Me and Vernon was telling me, all kinds of story. It was such a blast, and he is, he looks so cool, now, and he is still like super professional and actor, and he was perfect. I mean, yes, I didn't even think about Vernon, but the producer, called me up. Producer Andre called me up and said, "Hell, what about Vernon Wells?" Like, what?
Yes, please.
Of course, yes. So, yes, so working with Vernon was amazing. In this, previous movie I did, the movie called The Doorman, I had a chance to work with Jean Reno, which was another, dreams comes to, true moment. But yes, working with Vernon Wells it's insane.
Of course, it was.
Same as, of course, work with Emil Hirsch and Stephen Dorff. I've been a huge fan.
Of course, yeah.
So like, they're all amazing.
I'm curious, what did, I mean, you said there that Vernon was great to with. What did, once you got Emil involved and then Stephen Dorff got involved, did they bring anything additional to the characters, or did you have to fine tune the characters now that because obviously I don't think you hadn't written the script with them in mind. So did you have to change anything, or did they bring any ideas into the
they did,
into the film?
We talked a lot. We had very limited, time to shoot this movie, and very, very extremely limited time to prep this movie. So I actually met both Emil and Stephen and Vernon the day before we start shooting.
The day before?
Yeah, because I had basically only 5 days to prep this movie, and it is a complicated movie. So 5 days to prep, and Sunday they came to New Mexico, and I met, and we did one kind of read over the script. Then next day we started shooting, and on the set every day, no matter how much is the budget, the way you do it, every day there's a problem. So of course, from that day, 15 days of shooting, just intense, like chaotic shoot, and we just had to fight every single day. But yes, Steven is like super professional. So yes, he already. I even started to feel like when I was, discussing in between the takes, I mean, are you Steven or are you the character Cody? I mean, I couldn't tell. And Emil is like amazing. So like even in the weekend, and we had like intense shoot, 5 days, Monday to Friday. Then Sunday morning, he just, texts me and said, "Hey, come over to my hotel. Let's go over the script." And I've never met actor who's that much into the project,
Right.
Because in the weekend you wanna just chill, you wanna rest. But Emil is not like that. Why just come? And so I took my laptop, and me and Emil sit in the lobby of the hotel, and we started working on the other half of the script. And we just tried to come up with more idea and polish the dialogue. And Emil was all the way there. So he was amazing.
I mean, you mentioned that obviously this kind of situation, there's all kind of problems every day on set, but I mean, the violence is, I mean, you take it to a serious 10, 11 on the hour scale of 10, but I imagine that must have been really weight on your shoulders, because if that goes wrong, you've got to clean everything up and start fresh from scratch again. So that must have been a real worry. How did you manage? Did you pull it off first time, or was it a lot more vigorous than it appears in the film?
No, I mean, luckily I've done this kind of movie a lot, like you said, Midnight Meat Train, No One Lives, Downrange, Versus. So I kind of have this, enough experience, that I know that, this is easy or this is not going to be easy. So I know that, so I was preparing it. And these days, it's much easier to do everything on, CGI, VFX later, right? And that's what the most of the time the producer said, do it in a post, do it in a post. And when it comes
Really?
to post,
All
they
right.
tell you, oh, we don't have that much budget, right? So, well, luckily this time the producer were very supportive. And I said, like, yes, I know that it's going to take time and it's going to get, if you just pour the blood all over, it's going to get dirty, it's going to get nasty. You feel, the actors don't feel comfortable. But I really wanted to try to do it on the set as much as possible, even though this was like, we didn't have much, time and money to do it. Because I think it's still, no matter how VFX, evolve, still special makeup, the real, fake blood, much better than the added CGI blood. So I try to do everything as possible on the set. So it was fun.
Oh yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of there was so many different things there. I don't know if it was just me, but also reading some of the reviews, I get the feeling, were there a lot of Easter eggs and love letters to other movies that you've seen before? I mean, for example, there was a certain, I don't want to give anything away, but there were certain things that reminded me of a film called Street Trash that I imagine you've seen. Was that something that was that a specific love letter, homage to that kind of film? Were there various homages in the movie that you did specifically on purpose?
Yeah, I was a big fan of Jim Muro. Actually, he made that movie in School of Visual Art in New York, right? But back in 1987, I went to School of Visual Art in Australia. It was the same school, but they had a school in Australia. That's where I learned films, making. So to me, Jim Muro was like, yes, this guy.
Nice, fantastic. He was right on Street Trash, one of my favorite movies growing up.
And now he's a great DP, doing all the cool, and he's a great director.
Great big blockbusters, yeah.
So yes, that particular thing, yes, that was a homage to great Jim Muro and Street Trash. Yes.
Brilliant. So I mean, just to finish off, then we're running out of time. So I mean, obviously you've done this, and you did it on your limited budget, and obviously with limited everything because of the situation. But obviously, I was looking on IMDb, and you've got a couple of films coming up soon, and they're very different, no? I think one's more of a drama, and one's more of a thriller. Is that right? Can you tell us a little about what you've got coming up next?
Yeah, the movie right after I shot in Japan called The Three Sisters of Temaso In, which is very different from what I did before, but I'm very proud. This is like a fantasy, heartwarming drama about the world between heaven and earth. And it's based on the manga created he's my good friend. We did this movie called Alive and Sky High together.
Alive, yeah.
And he came up with this comic 9 years ago, and this was my passion project. And this was my first Japanese movie in 9 years. And I'm very proud of that. So that's the movie just came out in Japan last year. And I'm already working on my next movie, which will be very different from, it's gonna be a movie for horror fans, definitely. I can't say much, but it's very different from No One Lives, Midnight Meat Train, or The Price We Pay. It's very different kind of suspense, thriller, horror movie, which we aiming to start shooting this April.
This April. Fingers crossed.
I always try to come up with something very different.
Something different. Oh yeah, definitely.
I get bored of myself if I keep on doing the same kind of a thing. So
having said that, though,
Price We Pay is just like you said. I haven't done this kind of movie since No One Lives, which was 11 years ago. So I felt like, okay, this is a good time to go back, here and there. I don't forget the roots. So here and there, I just feel like I just want to go and make this crazy movie with my friends. And that's what that's The Price We Pay is.
But yeah, but I mean, so going back to the horror genre, something that I was reading also is that every time that you do take on a horror project, you're always quite, I read that you're quite reticent about taking it on. It took you quite a while before Midnight Meat Train. You weren't so sure. And the same happened with No One Lives. This one, I don't think it was the same, but why is there so much reticence when it comes to doing another horror movie, whether or not to take it on? Then you dive in and it usually comes out hugely successful.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's something that's what I really love, since I was a kid.
But what is your specific kind of criteria when you receive horror movies? What is the kind of criteria that makes you decide something, even though you have been reticent about quite a few in the past and you've done them? What is your kind of specific criteria to say this one's a straight no, and then other ones that you'll kind of and think about for a few months and then suddenly decide, yeah, let's do this one?
I don't know. It's all about to me. It's all about, even though I am kind of famous by doing this over the top violence and the gore and splatter things, but to me, it's all about the character and the story. Because No One Lives, I was really, I felt that character Luke Evans did, in No One Lives, the driver, that was very, unlike any other horror,
Definitely,
hero,
yeah.
serial killer type. That's what, grabbed me. And for the price we pay, like I said, this Vernon Wells character, the grandfather, the doctor, his motivation, his reason of doing this was, which is this writer, UK writer, Chris Jolley, came up with, and it just grabbed me. I felt like, I feel like, because when you're living, especially in this film, in this, this industry, it's a crazy world, a lot of betrayals, a lot of liars and fuckers out there. And I just always feel like, I just want to go out and fucking killing everybody. Which, so to me, unleash this my darker side, making a horror movie is somehow,
Some kind of catharsis.
makes me live the healthy life.
Exactly. That's the perfect note to finish on. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you the best of luck with the film when it comes out, and I hope, hopefully, fingers crossed, you get to make your film in April, and we'll get to speak about that one soon as well. All the very best. Take care then.
Thank you for
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Now, the fun begins.